Today, I'm going to be talking Remesh versus dynamic topology and see which one is better and which one you should use when and where. Let's go.
Remesh versus dynamic topology in Blender. Alright, so let me go over quickly how to use both of them. So when you're remeshing, you just go Shift R and it'll pop up with these like cubes. It's like dependent on your scale of your object. So before doing this, make sure that your scale is set. So it's not random like this. Just press Ctrl A and scale, then go to sculpt mode, Shift R, pops up with this little thing. I didn't even know about this till like a year ago or something. So quite a while after this came out, it took me a while to learn it, but Shift R, and then you can see like a graphical representation of how big your voxel is, and you press Ctrl R and it remeshes into like a grid system on top of your model. Okay, and then dynamic topology is a bit more complicated. You can click on here, and then you have the subdivide collapse, or the relative detail, what I mean. So like if I go like in here, let me go back to a normal brush. I think they're all messed up now. As you can see, like here. So if I go here, so it has like decent amount of detail. If I zoom in, you can see it has a little bit more detail. If I zoom in even more, it has a lot more detail. So you can see here, if I go to edit mode, you can start to see the levels of detail in the model. So the closer in you are, the more detail add. And you can also change this number. So make this like 8 pixels, then zoomed out, it'll be like this level, zoomed into like a medium range, be like this level. And if you zoom in like a lot, it'll be quite a lot of vertices. So that's kind of how the one version of dynamic topology works. The other one is actually very similar to the remesh, because you have constant detail. So if you go like select, so like maybe here, and now this is the level of detail that we have. So you can kind of mess around with this number. Just go like 70, and you can say like detail flood fill, which is basically the same thing as remeshing. So it depends on like kind of what you want. As you can see, my PC is struggling a bit, but you see, so it's like just a standard amount of detail. And also one thing you can notice is it's all a bunch of triangles. So you can see here, it's just triangles everywhere. Now talking between them, which is better? Is it better to use dynamic topology or better to use remesh? So let's talk about which one is better and in which cases. So right now, if you're using constant detail in dynamic topology, that is kind of bad. It's not really optimal, because you can see right now, if I'm working to see how many vertices we have, statistics, let's go to edit mode. We have 160,000 vertices. And now you see every time I press tabs going to edit mode, my PC is struggling. So if we set up remeshing, so let me turn off dynamic topology, and let's see if I take my model all the way up to enough, like having 160,000 vertices. Let's see how much it will lag. There, close enough. It is a lot smoother. It's a lot quicker changing in between edit modes. So it's just a lot more, like it's more refined. It's just a lot quicker and works a bit easier. And it's also just a nicer thing having like the hotkeys and stuff for it. But there is a time where having dynamic topology is useful, because like having this like going in and out to edit mode might be a problem, especially if like a high-end system. Also, if you're working on a specific part, like say sculpting a head, sometimes that is very annoying using remeshing, because you will have it where you're sculpting, say like the lips or something, and then you have to add detail to the entire face just to sculpt the lips, and then like the back of the head now has a bunch of extra topology to it that doesn't need to be there just because of that. So what you could do is when you're sculpting your faces, especially if you're going to retopologize it later, which is basically just, if you don't know, it's basically just reconstructing your whole face with like polymodeling. So you just rebuild it. So if you're going to retopologize it and you're sculpting something that has varying amounts of detail, so if you're sculpting a face, then I actually probably would recommend you use the dynamic topology if you have a more high-end system. So if you're using constant detail, I wouldn't really recommend it. If you're using constant detail, just use the remeshing, and if you're on a lower end system, use remeshing. But if you need specific parts that have a lot of detail and specific parts that don't have much detail, then using the dynamic topology with the having the relative detail is actually pretty useful. Now there's other different modes like brush detail, which will basically, like, depending on the size of your brush, will add more or less detail. So you can see if I make my brush bigger, you can see it's lower res. If I make my brush smaller, it's higher res. So you can try that. Also, if you need, probably not the greatest one, but you could try it out and see what works for you. So test it out, see what works. It might work completely fine on Remesh, it might work completely fine on dynamic topology. It is up to you, but as a general rule, use the dynamic topology if you need to have varying amounts of detail, and use the Remesh if you need to just have a lower system or have like a straight amount of details you need everywhere.
Go check out the links down below if you want to get some coaching or join my Discord. If not that, click on this video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy.